Prologue, Part 2, from the personal record of Asahina Akira, written in the month of the dragon in the year 776 during the reign of Hantei the 22nd. I write these lines because the house has grown quiet, not empty, not abandoned, but different than before. The sounds remain, the soft working of wood at night and brushing along the paper walls, the distant call of a bird at dusk, and yet everything has been newly ordered since he departed from me. I hesitated for a long time to set this memory down, not because it pains me, pain is familiar to me, but because our story has not yet finished. Now, through the written word, I accept responsibility. They will become part of our story, for our children and our children's children. The story itself is known, it has been told, passed on, remembered in shortened form. Our children know it, even without it having been written. But between knowing and understanding lies a space that only silence can fill. That is the space I wish to fill. The bond between the house of Kakita Shige and my line was not a decision, not a long considered plan, not an alliance. It did not arise from conversations, from calculation, or from wise foresight. It arose from a single moment. I did not act then in order to write history. I did not act to establish anything. I acted because in that moment there was no other path. The place was unremarkable. Borderland, current, earth, trampled grass, the scent of blood lay in heavy air, mingled with dust and cold wind. My thoughts has been calm, my spirit collected. I had visited shrines, had meditated, had sensed the quiet currents of the kami. Those one hears only when one is not searching. When I reached the site of the battle, I first believed I had arrived too late. The body in the grass lay too still, the breath too shallow. It was the state in which life has already begun to loosen. So the body has not yet fully understood it, seeking the gate to the next realm. I knelt down beside him without hesitation, without haste. He opened his eyes. That gaze has remained with me. No pleading, no anger, no fear, only clarity. It was that clarity which struck me more deeply than his wounds. It left no space for distance, no space for the well ordered compassion, only fields from safety. Even now I can see his eyes when I close mine. I placed my hands upon his wound. It was more desperation than anything else. The cuts were deep and the bleeding heavy. I did not believe I could heal them. Touch is something, the only thing one can give when words fail. I did not think of purity nor of my robes. My gaze rested only on him. I begin the ritual chants, the ancient words every Asahina knows, a plea for the cooling of the blood, a plea for the easing of fever, a plea for the closing of what stands open. My voice was steady, my breath controlled. I upheld the order as I had been taught, but his breathing grew shallower. His life seemed to flow out of him. I felt as salt water were slipping through my fingers. The kami were present, yet they held their distance. Not in rejecting, in testing. They heard me, but they did not follow my plea. I seemed to be asking too much. And something within me broke. A deep despair seized me. The chants dissolved, the words lost their form. What remained was voice, breath, pain. I no longer prayed as one is taught. I no longer sang as prescribed. I called out, not loudly, not by name. I called with all that I was. I did not pray for a samurai. I prayed for a human being. I prayed as thought his death would be the loss of the only life I loved. The kami did not answer at once, and yet something changed. It was a sort a current shifted its course almost imperceptibly. His breath found a new rhythm, uneven, then slower, then holding. His deepest wounds ceased to bleed. I remained. Not out of duty, not from hope of gratitude, not from a sense of being needed. I remained because his spirit has not yet fully settled back in his body, and because no one should be alone in a state between staying and departing. The days that followed were quiet, very quiet. I cleansed his wounds, cooled the fever, changed the bandages. We spoke little. He asked nothing that was not necessary. I explained nothing that did not reveal itself. Closeness did not arise from words, but from the time endured together. Even from his sickbed, he formally introduced himself to me. Thought I already knew his name. He was Kakita Shige, first-born son. Bushi. I gave my name, and he bowed his head respectfully, thought every moment still cost him effort. It was a gesture that demanded nothing and said everything, and I remained. Once he said I could have left. I confirmed that I could. He nodded. Nothing more was spoken. In that not lie, no reproach, no gratitude, only recognition of what had been. When he was able to stand again, he asked me to leave. His voice was calm, composed. It was the voice of a man aware of his role. Not harsh, not dismissive. I remained nonetheless. His physical wounds healed more quickly than what the battle had unsettled within him. Only much later did I understand that it had not been his body alone that had been wounded. Some injuries lie deeper, where the duty and survival touch one another. 1 year later, I became his wife. From the silence between us, a shared path had emerged. Our bond was quiet, without great celebration, without political significance. And yet it endured through all the years, a firm foundation. I entered the house of Kakita Shige without relinquishing myself. He gave me space as he had given me space when I first knelt at his side. We spoke of many things, and we were silent about just as many. Both had their place. We had children, and I remained. Not out of a habit, not out of duty, but by choice, each day anew. I watched him age, not quickly, not heavily, but as those age who have learned moderation. I saw him act when action was necessary and remain silent when words would have caused harm. I saw him in moments of weariness, in moments of clarity, in moments when he questions himself without speaking it aloud. And I saw him die. Now, many years later, calm, prepared without fear. His death was not a rupture, it was a completion. His breath grew slower, steadier, until it ceased. His gaze remained clear until the end. Now, as I write these lines, I understand that our bond arose because compassion did not hesitate, because someone remained when leaving would have been possible, because life was not regarded in an abstract value, but as something precious that lay before me. I did not act then to write history. I acted because in that moment there was no other path. Perhaps that is precisely why this story continues to be carried forward. Our children bear both lines within them, not as burden, not as obligation, but as remembrance that strength and peace are not opposites, that a prayer in the dust can carry as much weight as a blade in a duel. That bearing is not always visible, but always felt. There is nothing more to say. What is important has been said. What is meant to remain remains.